Hello friends, in this video, we will analyze Chapter 19 of Baki Rahen. This chapter was undoubtedly very interesting, and tensions rose between Jack Hanma and his father Yujiro Hanma. Recall that they were in the middle of a dinner that seemed to be going very smoothly. However, in this chapter, things got out of control. But without further ado, let's dive into what this new chapter has in store for us. In the previous chapter, we witnessed the beginning of this father-son dinner. Yujiro and Jack were sitting next to each other at the same table, something that, until recently, was unthinkable. Jack was very nervous and didn't want to do anything that might discomfort his father, so he was very cautious with every move he made. Yujiro, on the other hand, was very relaxed and was just waiting for the food patiently. At one point during the dinner, Yujiro praised Jack for his skill with cutlery and told him that he was better than Baki in that regard. Jack obviously skipped the rest of the sentence and just focused on the part where Yujiro said he was better than Baki. Those words echoed in his head for a moment. The dinner continued normally and Jack looked very excited. At one point, he asked Yujiro for permission to use his hands instead of cutlery, to which Yujiro responded that he could do so, but not to do it in public. This week's chapter continues with the father-son dinner. They were served the main course, which was a large dish of beef and lamb. The waiter explained that the lamb, served with its bones, had been slow-cooked in olive oil to enhance its flavor and tenderize it. The waiter was very proud of this dish, as the meat was much softer than usual and had been seasoned with a wild berry sauce for a fruity touch. Yujiro expressed his dissatisfaction with receiving the meat on the bone, but Jack, contrary to his father, had already grabbed a piece and put it in his mouth, savoring its exquisite flavor and texture. With just one bite, he easily broke the bone, astonishing the waiter. Then, Jack chewed the bone with his robust teeth, completely grinding it. This was not the first time Jack had eaten the bones. It was already a usual part of his diet. The flavor was truly delicious, so he immediately took another piece to devour completely. Jack crushed the meat along with the bones with ease. Yujiro, seeing this, told Jack that he was a very peculiar and outrageous person, which is why he appreciated being in a private room. Jack, paying no attention to this comment, continued to eat quickly until he finished the last piece of meat. After leaving the plate empty, he proceeded to show his approval for the dish. The waiter was totally impressed, not only because Jack had eaten almost all of that large plate of meat, but because he had not left even the smallest piece of bone. Jack took his glass of water and drank serenely, then carefully wiped his mouth and expressed his gratitude for the meal, praising its excellent flavor and texture, while Yujiro nodded silently. Yujiro was about to take a sip of his black coffee when he was abruptly interrupted. Jack apologized to his father for raising the next question right after dinner, but his curiosity was too much. He wanted to know the reason for the invitation to this place. Yujiro remained silent for a moment while Jack took a long sip of coffee. Then the ogre questioned Jack if he really needed a special reason to invite his own son to dinner. The cyborg asked his father to be honest. He was eager to know the real reason behind their meeting, especially since it was unusual for them to dine together after so long without a specific purpose. Yujiro observed Jack closely, while the waiter, nervous about the tense atmosphere, feared a possible confrontation. However, Yujiro assured Jack that it was simply a dinner, a normal act of a father towards his son, and that there was nothing unusual about it. Jack raised his right fist and covered his mouth while he laughed lightly after hearing these words, catching Yujiro's attention. The ogre immediately asked why he was laughing, what he found amusing. Jack apologized but did so with a mocking gesture, telling him that such things are what a normal father would do. These words discomforted the ogre, and we see his hair begin to bristle. Jack mentions that dining together is indeed very normal among regular fathers and sons, but they do not fit into that category. He asked Yujiro if he really sees himself as a normal father. At these words, Yujiro falls silent for a moment. The waiter, sensing the uncomfortable and dangerous situation, tries to interrupt the conversation by offering dessert, but Yujiro cuts him off and questions how normal he really is. Yujiro looks up at the ceiling, pondering this question. The ogre confesses that he had never thought about it in his life. He had never questioned whether he was normal. Jack tells him that such a response is very typical of him. The cyborg pauses briefly and respectfully tells Yujiro that he definitely is not normal, even compared to other living creatures. At these words, the waiter immediately senses the tension in the air, apologizes quickly and leaves, mentioning he will be outside if they need anything else. He hurries across the room and rushes out the door. Yujiro asks his son Jack what he means by those words. The ogre, with a slight smile on his face, asks if he was trying to say that he was inhuman. Jack reacts immediately, nervously trying to clarify that this was not what he meant to imply. His words reveal his nervousness and a bit of fear. Yujiro tells Jack to relax, noting that since he had apologized and stated that he spoke with all due respect before making those comments, he would forgive the remark. Yujiro states that those words were not appropriate for the occasion. Suddenly, his hair stands on end. The ogre had stood up, and a terrifying aura surrounded his body. He asks Jack to also stand up and come for what he was really seeking. Calmly, Jack stands and questions Yujiro, asking if this wasn't what he wanted from the beginning. Both men stand, and the huge size difference between them is apparent. It's not that Yujiro was small, Jack was just too tall. The ogre, furious, tells his son that he will make him regret those words and make him cry. He actually said it to him in a wilder way, but I can't say it in the video, so I expressed it in a way that we won't be censored. The cyborg, very calmly, says they can do it right there. Without a bell or referee, the fight would start as soon as one of them made the first move, thus ending this chapter. And well, there will be no chapter next week, so we will have to wait a while to see what happens in this epic father-son confrontation. Definitely, this is what everyone was waiting for. Jack facing Yujiro head-on instead of acting like a child seeking his father's approval. In this chapter, Jack got serious and threw harsh words at Yujiro. Words that obviously did not sit well with the ogre at all. Jack made it clear to Yujiro that all this pretense of being a normal family doesn't suit them. Yujiro can be anything he wants, but not a normal father. Yujiro tried to calm the situation and remain serene, stating that this is something he has questioned himself. He really doesn't know what it means to be normal. Yujiro took those words as if Jack had called him inhuman. One might think such words wouldn't bother Yujiro, but I believe they somehow wounded his ego, as he stood up and challenged Jack to a fight right there. Yujiro urged Jack to get what he had come for. However, Jack countered, questioning if this wasn't precisely what Yujiro had planned by bringing him to this place, the scene of his epic fight with Baki. I like that Jack didn't flinch in the face of Yujiro's imposing aura. He might have felt some fear, but he handled the situation well and seemed confident in his abilities to face his father's strength. In this chapter, Jack opened his eyes and broke free from the illusion he was trapped in during the previous chapter. At the beginning of the dinner, Jack appeared submissive and fearful of making a mistake that would upset Yujiro. However, in this chapter, he spoke his mind without fear of what the ogre might think. Jack essentially told Yujiro not to be a hypocrite and to stop acting like he was a good father because he wasn't. They haven't talked about Jack's mother yet, but I hope they do because it's an issue that both of them need to clear up. I'm sure Jack wants to ask Yujiro what he thinks of his mother. However, he's looking for the right moment to do it. It would be crazy if Diane showed up in the middle of the dinner and stopped this fight just before it started. It's just a theory I came up with, but I doubt it will happen. It's likely that Diane is living in Canada right now, and well, we'll have to wait for the next chapter to see how it all ends. But personally, I don't think there will be a real fight. I think there will be an exchange of blows, but the fight will be interrupted in some way. Remember, Itagaki is a troll and likes to play with these suspenseful situations. Now leave me your opinions in the comment box. Tell me if you think we'll really see a fight between Jack and Yujiro, or if in fact, nothing will happen and both will go home peacefully. I think it's too early to see this epic fight, but it would also be an unexpected twist if it happened at this point in the story. And well friends, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. I hope you have a nice day or night. See you soon.